Ravens made sure they punched their ticket to the postseason with a 38-3 statement win over the Bengals. Baltimore racked up 404 yards on the ground, and Lamar Jackson had 113 passing yards with an interception and 97 more yards rushing. Lamar and the Ravens will head to Tennessee next week, where they will look to avenge last year's 28-12 postseason loss. So, Shannon, will Lamar get his revenge next weekend against the Titans?
I'm taking the Ravens, Skip. They look good. The two teams that I fear the most in the AFC right now is Buffalo 1, Ravens 2. Skip, Buffalo look damn good, but the Ravens are not far behind. And what we're seeing is they can run the football. They're back to being the Ravens. They're back to bludgeoning people. People don't understand how hard it is to run for 200 yards, then 300 yards. They're one of the handful of teams in NFL history that's run for 400. They could have run for 500 yards yesterday. If Lamar Jackson had played the entire game, they run for 500. And that defense is starting to find their rhythm. Now, I'm not going to take too much into Cincinnati, because Cincinnati, they spent all their ammunition on Pittsburgh. They were done. Yep. After they beat Pittsburgh, Skip, they were spent.
Yep.
But the Ravens look good. Lamar is Skip, I mean, as bad as Lamar had a little streak there, but he ended up throwing for 26 touchdowns with 9 picks. And he went over 1,000 yards rushing again, the only quarterback in NFL history to have 2 1,000-yard rush seasons. So he's starting to get back to being Lamar Jackson. And, Skip, the Titans' defense, they're terrible. Skip, I didn't realize they were that bad. I knew they were bad, Skip, because, you know, they gave a boatload of money to Jadeveon Clowney. They signed Vic Beasley. He had a cup of coffee and read a comic book, and they got him up out of there.
Yep.
The Titans' defense has given up 38 points in 3 of the last 5 games. They just gave up 230 to the Packers. The Packers can run the football, but they can't run it like Baltimore. And Lamar Jackson's legs. I'm taking the Ravens, Skip. This is a dangerous football team. You say you want to be streaking. You want to be peaking at the right time. They're peaking at the right time. Tennessee's going to have their hands full, but the Ravens going to have their hands full because King Henry, you saw what he did yesterday, Skip. I said, I don't know if he can get to 223. He said, man, watch me. I'm going to go get 253.
Yep.
He was sensational, but I'm taking the Ravens.
I picked the Ravens before we started all this. And by the way, just a quick aside before I forget, I want to congratulate the commissioner of the National Football League. They just got through 256 regular season games in the middle of a pandemic without a bubble.
Yep.
And they played all 256. Congratulations.
Yep.
Now, let's hope they can get through the rest. Okay.
Yeah, they really need to hunker down, because, Skip, you can't be moving. Regular season games, you can play them on the Thursday and everything. But
I agree.
Playoffs now.
Back to Lamar. This is the biggest game of his career, and he's played in many. The problem is, in his biggest home games, he's been scary bad. Like inexplicably bad, un-Lamar bad,
right,
un-MVP bad in home games, both the two playoff games, including the one last year to Tennessee, when they effectively took 3 weeks off because they had the bye, and they ran into the buzzsaw that was the Titans at that point on a Saturday evening at home, and they just didn't look ready to play.
They didn't.
And they fell so far behind. Lamar ended up putting big numbers up.
Historic numbers up.
Big numbers. But it didn't matter because they got so far behind so quickly, and it was on him because of the turnovers.
Correct.
3 early turnovers.
Yes.
Okay, so now you get a shot at revenge. You're not going back to the scene of the crime because it's not in your place, it's at their place. I actually like Baltimore more on the road than at home, and I can't explain why. They just haven't played well at home.
Right.
Does it matter? There's no crowd or little to speak of? I don't know, maybe. But I also believe they're going to win this game. I picked them to win the Super Bowl, and for a long time, remember, they got hit hard by COVID.
They did.
Hard. And it took the life out of them. It took the heart out of them.
Lamar missed 2 games, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they had so many practices canceled and so many shutdowns of the facilities.
Moved the games.
Yeah, moving games to odd nights. And finally, on an odd, was it Tuesday night against my Cowboys, it took off. They won that game 34-17 because they ran for 294. And then they go to Cleveland and run for 231. And then against Jacksonville at home, they just routed them 40-14, but they had 159. And then Giants 249, and then, as you point out, 404 yesterday at Cincinnati.
What they said, it was like 12 yards, 20 yards short of it was the most rush yards gained in a 5-game stretch. They gained almost 1,400 yards in 5 games.
In a row. So I'm with you. Lamar had shaky streaks this year, but somehow he started to figure it back out as he got healthier coming off COVID and got his legs back underneath him. And they are devastating on the ground. And if you don't watch it, he can be devastating through the air. If we could see that touchdown pass he threw to Miles Boykin yesterday, this one took my breath away.
Just a little flick of the wrist.
Yeah, he just barely flicks it, and it's got juice on it. It's got real juice on it. Hits him right on the button.
Yep.
And seriously, I will give you this. It's not the prettiest throwing motion in pro football, but is it not the quickest release? It's just like, pew, it just comes out so fast.
And he had another one to Hollywood Brown in the back of the end zone.
Yep. Okay. So when he threw that, I said, you can win with that.
Right.
You can go places.
The thing is, the thing that Tennessee does to you, Skip, is that you have to commit so much to stop Derrick Henry.
Yep.
And we saw what happened yesterday. The Texans were trying to stop Derrick Henry after he got going, and then they burned the quarterback on the boots. And he's picking up 10. He's picking up touchdowns. He's picking up first downs. And then they play fake, and then they hit A.J. Brown over the top. And you still got Corey Davis. So Marlon Humphrey and Pete's going to have a lot on their plate because you're going to have to drop that safety down.
Yep.
Now, they went and got Calais Campbell. They went and got Derek Wolfe for this game.
They did.
There's no love lost between Tennessee and Baltimore. This goes back to 2000, Skip, to Brian Billick and Jeff Fisher and Ray and Eddie George and all. There's no love lost.
You were there?
But you go get those two guys for this game. Derek Wolfe and Calais Campbell, this is why you're here, to stop Derrick Henry.
It's funny, you played in that game that will be a mirror of this game.
Yep.
It will be physical.
Yep.
It will be, I remember coming down the elevator, I was staying at your hotel, didn't really know you at that point, knew your big brother really well. And I'm coming down, and all your guys are wearing camouflage.
The D was ready. I was like, man,
camouflage to a game?
And we got up to a little shaky start, Skip. I said, we got behind 7-0. I was like, man, we need to make a play. I said, well, here's now never. And Trent loads it up. They blow it aside me. He hit me. I run it down to the 1.
Yep.
We score 7-7. Skip, we only had like 140 yards of offense. But I said, I told Trent, I said, Trent, if we don't turn it over, they're not going to score again. They're not going to score again. It needs to be that type of physicality.
It will be. And I will say this about Ryan Tannehill. I've never been a fan of his. I wasn't a fan of his before that draft. I definitely wasn't a fan of his at Miami. But, man, he makes me rethink.
Skip, you see his numbers? His numbers is off the charts.
And what he did yesterday, I didn't get to watch much of this, but I saw the end of it, the game at Houston.
You can't throw it any better than what he threw it to A.J. Brown.
How do you get anybody open? The safety bit on the underneath, and all of a sudden he's single, and you just hit him right over the top in his hand.
I think Greg Williams called that defense. He had to call that defense. Skip, ain't no way I'm going single high safety. Why would you go single high safety?
I think there were 2 of them to start with, I thought.
Skip, I'm going to look.
But what a throw and a catch that was. And then your kicker, I don't know how you...
Because Gostkowski is in protocol.
Yeah, I know.
And this guy, they just signed him. I'm like, who? I thought Gostkowski was like, who is this?
Well, they're lucky it wasn't Gostkowski because he just lost it this year.
And this dude, Skip, he like to lost it.
Yeah.
Because it hit
It's fading. It's fading. If it's an inch, heck, like a half inch more to the right, it's going to come straight
square,
back.
And it's bouncing straight back in the field.
I thought it was hitting it square, and it went sideways and over.
Oh, my, yeah. This was... They had this game in the control, Skip. They were up by like 14, 15 points. And then Deshaun got hot.
So I was pleasantly surprised that most of the betting sites have this Ravens favored by 4.5-ish, somewhere in that range. They are going to win this game, I believe, and they're going to march on, and it's going to be very interesting to see what havoc they can wreak on the road.
I don't like the Kansas City because it's another situation you're going to talk about guys that, and they weren't looking the best down the stretch.
Yep.
So basically, Mahomes is going to have 3 weeks off.
Again, if the favorites hold, if the chalk holds, they
No, but even if they don't hold, Skip, I'm just saying Mahomes, he didn't play the last game.
But
He's not playing next week.
Lamar and company would go to Kansas City next. And that would be an interesting battle because that was Lamar's coming out party is when he went head-to-head with Mahomes.
He needs to, the people that's caused him the most problems has been Tennessee Titans in the playoffs and Patrick Mahomes in 2 regular seasons. He got close 1 year.
He did, but then the Monday night game this year was a disaster.
And last year was even worse.
It was. It was. Here they come.
Here they come.
Well, you know, Skip, I let you have a little bit of a break from talking about your Cowboys, but we got to get back to it because what we saw yesterday, does the Cowboys' loss sit squarely on Mike McCarthy's shoulders? Yes, we're going back